No cutting.
No
We're
cutting
just
out?
going straight through.
We're definitely cutting.
Welcome to Coffee Break, Season 4. My name is Liz.
And I'm Grace.
And I'm Fatima.
Fatima, welcome back.
Thank you
back.
so
It's
much.
been a while.
Yeah.
Some of you who have been following along with us from the beginning may have been wondering why it's been me and Grace for a while, but Fatima is back with us. We're so excited to have her back. Fatima, where are you now? What's going on?
Well, before I hear about or tell you all where I've been, tell me what I missed because I heard that this was a really fascinating, exciting season. So tell me about the guests we have to look forward to.
Yeah, we had so many great guests this season. We had a lot of personal friends of mine that were able to come on. And this season was interesting because we're exploring a lot of the personal narratives that we all carry, which are essentially the set of beliefs that you start to develop as you age and you experience life. You learn how to navigate the world based on the relationships in your life, based on your environments. And some of these beliefs can become stuck beliefs and things that no longer serve you in your adulthood. So a lot of these guests explore kind of the stories that we tell ourselves, whether it's stories about our bodies, stories about our mental health, our minds, and also exploring how each of these guests navigate challenging times, like navigating grief and navigating all of the heaviness in today's current climate. So there's a lot to look forward to this season.
Well, I can't wait to tune in and catch up. Read the bios of our guests, and they all sound so different and unique. And I'm sure that everybody in the audience is going to join me in learning about these incredible guests.
Yeah. Even when Grace was editing these episodes, she was telling me, man, I'm listening back to this conversation. I could just listen to it 10 times over and over, and it feels new every time. So there's so many gold nuggets here and there, and I'm sure you'll take away something from these episodes.
And, you know, it's been 4 seasons. And when we started, the whole point was that we wanted to share our hearts with people who were similar to us or people who might have different opinions than us. But the most important thing is we wanted to add value. We wanted to give some nuggets for people to help navigate their lives as we shared our stories and shared stories of all of our guests. And so you asked me, where am I now? Well, I'm in a really good place. When we started the podcast, I was in deep grief because of a family challenge of losing my daughter, going through a divorce, everything that happened after COVID. Well, now I really feel very content and very joyful. And I understand that everything that's going on in the world, we have to be able to hold the joy and the pain. And so I was blessed to spend a year living in Maui. And at that time, I was really able to slow down, rest, take care of my health, focus on things that I haven't thought about or done in years. And so I've recently returned back to the Atlanta area, and I'm just so excited to pick up and really go full force ahead. Is that the word? Full force ahead,
force ahead.
with everything that we've been doing. I'm so excited to be back with both of you.
Yeah.
And
excited to
feeling
have
your
you back.
energy and spending time together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think doing the podcast has grown us a lot. I'm curious for both of you. I know that you were in Maui and not as present for the most recent seasons, but I'm curious, how do you guys feel doing this podcast has changed you? Or what have you learned in the process of doing it? Because it's definitely been a challenging process for the three of us, I think.
Challenging is putting it lightly.
Very likely.
I think in doing this podcast, I feel that I've really processed through life along with doing these episodes, having these conversations with these guests. And so much transformation has happened along the way, at least for me personally. And even listening, I'm sure listening back to the first season, which I wouldn't want to do, but I felt that it was really hard for me to film these episodes because I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be, yeah, I just didn't want to be seen, let alone on the internet. So having to overcome that obstacle was a big challenge for me. And even though my heart was there, I really wanted to do this. I really wanted to get these words out to people. I really know that it's something that's very needed. Uh, it was in my heart, and I wanted to be about community, but but emotionally, mentally, I wasn't able to do that. So there was this constant tension. But I think now coming into this season, now we're in season 4, and I'm also in a different season in my life. And I think I can more confidently say that I'm more emotionally and mentally ready to really put into action what my heart has been leading me towards.
I love that. Well, I think for me, I had a lot of tabs open in my brain because I had gone through so much. And so when I was in the podcast, actually sitting there, I don't think I was as present. In fact, when I look back at some of the episodes, you can see that I'm moving around, I'm fidgeting, I'm looking at my phone. So, one of the things I think that has happened for me is that I've become more grounded and still, and I check in with myself throughout the day. Are you present? Are you listening? Pause. You don't have to go so fast. It's okay to slow down. And I really think that happened from, first of all, being in Maui, where there's a community of people who really live a different way. They're not really plugged in. The people that I know, they're not so plugged into the rat race and the day to day that's going on. And then spending so much time in the ocean and with nature and just having a time to, like, have my breath in cadence with the waves. All of that really helped me to pay more attention to the way I was showing up in the world. And so I think that's the one of the major things I'll share for now is just really being able to slow down and show up by being more present. Oh, and one other thing helped with that is while I was in Maui, I was a teacher. And one of the things, I'm a Montessori teacher. I haven't done that in years, but I had the blessing of being able to do that for a year. But one of the things is when you're focusing on children, you really have to become an observer, almost a scientist watching them. And so that really helps you to have to be very still and present so that you can serve and teach children in the way in which our Montessori philosophy is.
I'm seeing a common thread because I think when I was reflecting on how doing this podcast has changed me, it's also been learning how to become more present. And I think it's been interesting because I feel like I've gotten more. I never considered myself completely out of touch with my feelings, but I've gotten more attuned to them because to have good conversations and to lead good interviews and to be present with guests and like with each other and be intentional about being able to talk about what we're experiencing. And you have to be present for your life. You have to be present.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's been forcing me to focus on that and made me realize how much I wasn't present. And I think I'm noticing now the time that it takes me to recognize my own emotions or when things are turbulent or to be able to name the feeling. It sounds so elementary, but
No, that's true. Like, I was feeling good. Now I'm feeling a little bit sucky. What happened? Oh, I remember what happened. And that's when my mood shifted. So let's reshift the mood back into one of gratitude, joy. So, that's what present is being about, being very aware of how we're feeling throughout the day. And I like to extend it because I'm really focusing more on collective now, not just how I'm feeling and how I've shifted, but what about the people around me? How are they feeling? Being aware if they've shifted. Is it something I said? Is there something that happened to them? So I think that has definitely, I've practiced that a lot more since the beginning of the podcast.
We talked about facing a lot of difficult emotions, especially experiencing life through doing this podcast. How would you say that you all have changed, maybe not just through this podcast, but over the years in your own life, talking about how you carry yourself in times of uncertainty or deep heaviness and grief? And we talk about grief quite a bit in this season.
I've noticed that I, if I think about how I used to carry myself in times of uncertainty or heaviness, I would say it was not the most kind. It was very hard on myself and very almost like military. Like the inner voice was
Fuck
like,
it up. You can do it. Buck up. Exactly. People have it worse than you. Right.
Be grateful.
Be grateful. Get up. Get out. Do
Right.
something.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So that's like how I would talk to myself. And it's always like, also, we need to just like push through this moment. We need to push through whatever pain and just keep going.
Right. Yeah.
And I think there's some pros to that. But I've learned how to hold a space of kindness for myself. I think, and I would say doing this podcast has helped me because I'm learning how to recognize my feelings and learning, okay, I'm feeling kind of heavy today. Like, let me go easier or create space where I'm kinder to myself today instead of just needing to push through difficult moments. And, you know, we give our family and our friends so much grace in the way that we speak to them when they're going through hard times. But it's like turning that back onto myself and speaking to myself kindly when I'm going through a hard time has been something that's been a new development, I would say.
And I can say I've really noticed that in you. As you've journeyed through your career, talking about certain challenges and barriers that you're facing, I can definitely hear a lot more empathy and compassion for yourself, a lot more centering yourself as the main character and being the one who you should take care of as well among your family and everything that you have going on. So I definitely see that change. And and I feel like because I was gone, coming back and being in this space with you all again, I definitely can probably, maybe I see the changes even more than if I were here because I was not physically in your presence. So I definitely feel that you all are taking up space in a different way.
Yeah, what about you, Liz?
Well, I just had a thought, and you can cut it out later, but
No cutting. We're
cutting
just
out?
going straight through.
We're definitely cutting.
Let's see what she says first. Because I'm like,
it's not about me, it's about grace. That's why
Okay.
I have to cut it out. But at work, there's been a lot of emotions, and Grace will always be the one to listen empathetically. But then at the end, she goes, okay, so next item on the agenda.
she's like,
It's been a battle.
right, but let's move forward. Yeah, and how to handle that. You know, I still feel like I'm like that too. I don't like to sit in a problem. And there are certain people that I saw something the other day that said that people who are emotionally immature, they prefer to not live in reality and they prefer to live in the problem rather than seeking a solution because it's easier to sit in a problem then you can blame others or just say there's nothing I can do about it. And so when you ask, about carrying myself in a time of heaviness and uncertainty, well, first of all, I've always said I focus on the things that I can control, right? I can't control a lot that's outside of my will, and submitting to God's will has been a huge shift. And I think that all of my life I've tried to be pleasing to God, but I feel in this season in my life, it's deepening what that means. And so, one of the things that I say to myself all the time is, I'm content with God's decree on my life, understanding that there's only so much that I can do, that God is in charge. And if things are unfolding in my life in a way that I can't see the next step, that I'm content. But also knowing that my part is also to live a disciplined life, to try to live an obedient life, to make sure that God is the center of my life, so that I am, as much as possible, and we're all flawed, but as much as possible, walking on the path that I believe that God has laid out for me. So that has really helped me, because I had a lot of anger that I didn't realize that I had. I was angry at a lot of people. One of the emotions that I've always dealt with is, I don't like injustice and I don't like unfairness, and I want to call people to the carpet, and I want people to not get away with things, and you were wrong and it's not fair. And so, with that, being content with God's decree, I believe that God is the most just. He's the most merciful, and he will balance the scales. And that's not my work. That's out of my control. And so that has really helped me to walk more in a graceful, gratitude filled, and peaceful journey.
Yeah. I can say similarly, and we've talked about this before the recording, but that idea of surrendering to God versus trying to hold on and control things or people, relationships, whatever it is. And in the last season of my life, well, I'll say first, I never consider myself really to be a highly emotional person. And I think Grace knows for sure. And I think you've seen enough sides of me
Right,
to
right.
know that I realized more similar to Grace that I haven't been so in tune with that emotional side of me. And in this last season, I really allowed myself to feel everything. And it led to, I mean, everything.
I'm just, whew,
Okay, you were close
just
up and personal
empathizing.
with
Yeah.
this, right?
And that, I mean, it almost came with these like cathartic moments almost where I'm just in tears for several days on and on. And it's something I have never experienced because even not just outwardly, but even inwardly, I always felt very cold and dulled and just neutral and just at this stable line always emotionally. So it was a really weird experience for me, but I think that was necessary to now come into this place where I realize, okay, I've really surrendered everything to God. I know that without relying on his strength, and knowing that he has a plan that I'm not going to fully understand, but still doing what I need to do, staying aligned with him, and following that is going to lead to a fruitful and healthy life. In the process of that journey, I think I've overprotected myself, protected my peace, protected my space, and then protecting, and then now it's just me in a vacuum kind of feeling. And I realized that's ultimately not what I want, and that's not a life. It's to extend myself.
Yeah, I think in the process of healing, one of the stages includes protecting ourselves from harm, because usually you need healing because you were harmed. So now identifying the harm and then being very protective. And another part for me was protecting my people from me, because I was angry as I recognized things. I didn't want to take out my resentment, frustration, realizations on people. And so sometimes you can get stuck in protective zone, And one of the things that I'm working on now is, like you said, opening up more and more and expanding the capacity to deal with all the grief, the heaviness, the joy, the happiness, all the emotions and the things that are happening, and the tragedy, the trauma that's happening globally and locally. And so, but I think that's a decision to say, now I feel equipped to open myself up. And I think that that's one of the things I would encourage the audience to check in with yourself. Are you in protective mode? Do you still need to be in there because there's some things that you need to work on that requires isolation?
Right.
Or are you at a point now that maybe it's time to, like, open up a little bit? Because what I believe is the world needs each of us doing something. And I think that that leads to our next kind of thing that we wanted to talk about, it with everything going on in the world, in our community. What do we feel about that? And but before we move to that, Grace, do you feel like you had a chance to talk about how you carry yourself in times of uncertainty? Did you have some more to add, or you good?
No, I think that was it.
Yeah, so going on to talking about, one of the things about living in Maui is, even though it's considered the 50 states, I realized that, it's really a different country. It's another world. And so, what was going on in U.S. politics and government and community was not centered at all. And so, coming in and being here a little less than 2 weeks, I feel like inundated and just like, oh my gosh, everything is going on. So I would let you all like kind of start with, how do you feel, because you've been in it for way longer than I have.
I would say first, I'm just really heartbroken. And now that we have the internet, social media, and so much access to all the information at once, I don't think we're built to handle that. I'm mentally, emotionally, everything. And so it's a lot of overwhelm, and you can't help it. You don't want to intentionally stick your head in the sand and ignore everything going on. You want to be somewhat aware, but then you want to also protect your mind and your heart, and have some direction in your life, and also live your life as well, right? So I think first, just acknowledging that this is a lot to take in. We're not meant to take in all of this, but also being empathetic to the suffering, and trying to find little ways to do whatever it is that I can do, I think has been the focus now, is what is it that I can do? It may not be solving all of these problems in a day, but just just really focusing on what is it that I can do today. And but I mean, I say that like it's an easy process, but really I'm still wrestling with just being able to accept even that these things are happening in the world and to people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just, like you said, just been so much overwhelm in the amount of information, and then not really being able to do much about it except for talking about it, except for staying aware. But I think one of the things that has been on my mind is expanding back outwards into our communities, or I think a small way that we can make a difference for ourselves and for others is to pour back into our communities, or to even hold spaces for kindness for the people in our communities who are going through a hard time, to continue to have empathy for each other in a time where everything kind of wants you to be numb because it's just so much to take in. So I think a part of the resistance is staying kind, and is being able to continue to empathize with others, because it's so easy to kind of shut down, or yeah, stick your head in the sand and pretend that nothing is happening.
I love that. I think you all really elucidated very well the three ways that we are being prodded to be distracted. The first one is to be desensitized and numb. And the second thing is to actually not even plug in at all and be completely head in the sand, no clue what's going on. And then the third one is to be overreactive, um, a whole day is spinning out of control because we don't know what to do. And so we're just completely dysregulated, you know. And so for me, coming back, all I can say is I had a fascination growing up with Anne Frank. I read her book. I watched all the movies about Anne Frank. I read about the Holocaust. And then as I got older, I read books about people's stories and memoirs about it. And I remember thinking, and I went through the same journey reading about enslaved people here in America. And I always said, oh my gosh, I don't want to be one of the people who, if they waited too late and or they could have done something and they didn't. You know, I don't want to be the one who goes down as not trying my best to make a difference. And so that's what I'm in prayer about right now. That's what I'm seeking. What can it, besides trying to live a God centered, purposeful, meaningful life, plugged in, besides that, what can I actually do to make a difference? Is there an organization I can volunteer with? Is it how I direct my dollars? But I definitely feel like it has to be not just thoughts and prayers. It has to be actions. And so that's the part that I'm trying to figure out right now.
Yeah, I think we're in a critical timing where we can still really make a change and do something if we take the action towards it. I don't think it's too late, but there's a lot of, I think, media and what do they call it?
Doomsday.
Yeah, doomsday.
Propaganda.
Yeah, right. And fear mongering.
And I understand the philosophy. A lot of Black people are like, you know, because of how the vote went, we told y'all. And a lot of Black people that I hear, well, not personally in my circles, but certainly on social media, they're like, you know, y'all can have it. You can try to make a difference. And so when I say being active, I don't mean in the kind of like just jumping on the bandwagon of what social media is saying. I'm saying being very intentional to the natural way in which I can be active. And so, very thoughtful, very conscious of the fact that while I'm in the problem, there are people who are definitely responsible for the problem, who should be held accountable for coming up with the solutions, and that the people suffering and oppressed from the problem are not responsible for providing the solution. And I've been in so many spaces where, you know, I'm a Black Muslim woman and people are looking to me to solve the problems that they created. And so I'm definitely saying that is a clear delineation in my mind of what I'm talking about being actively engaged and what sometimes people want to put on me and people of color as our responsibility. That's not our responsibility, in my opinion. Yeah, and I know that it takes courage to stand in that position because it's gaslighting. We've always been gaslit that it is our responsibility to solve a problem that, you know, we're out there protesting, we're out there trying to make a difference, and really, we're not the ones who caused it. So, what I do and what I think we all talk about so much is we focus on hope and faith, and that's something that, you know, we have to cultivate. So with everything going on, how do you sustain that daily, Grace? Like, what do you do? Or Liz, you know?
Well,
She doesn't sound very hopeful and grateful right now. Wow, let the church.
well, like I said, I think we're in a very critical moment in time where we have the ability to change things. as a community, as the big C community, everybody. But in terms of my daily life, starting the day with prayer, I mean, these are really practical things, not checking my phone and the news first thing, and letting it just ruin the whole day and put me in inaction mode. I mentioned earlier, in the process of being in a season of isolation, I've started to feel very judgmental in a way towards people. And I don't know if it's always in the negative sense or if it's because I've just seen patterns over and over again to where 99.9% of the time, something that I thought about that person or predicted, it comes to fruition. And so then I've gotten really good at avoiding people because I see that pattern so quickly. And for myself too, I'm not without fault or weakness or lacking, but I think that has really prevented me from opening myself up to connection beyond my 2.5 friends, that so in that, I think as I'm opening myself up more, I'm finding hope and faith because it's only through God that I can see past the surface, or seeing past things that I'm seeing wrong everywhere, and having, hope in people, faith, that together, building something together, we can really create something meaningful.
Yeah, and that's why even with all the twists and turns in our lives, I am still committed to wanting to work together on the podcast, work together on our group that we've started, because I feel like if I don't actively put things in place like that, I will retreat and stay retreated. I also think that another distraction that's out there is not to be judgmental. And to me, judgmental sometimes means not holding people accountable. And so we've been taught, oh, we don't want to be judgmental. So we're so busy not judging that we're allowing people to get away with despicable things. So I think we have to just be very intentional and thoughtful and analytical about these messages that we've been fed. Now, do I believe that we judge the individual on the choices that they've made, their behavior, their personality? Maybe not. Sometimes I do, but certainly we have the right to judge the power structure, the systems, the societal behaviors that have led to where we are right now. So, what I'm holding on right now to sustain my hope daily is, first of all, like you said, starting my day and my days being centered around God, number one. Number two, really looking at my family that I'm born into and how can I pour into my family and how can I make them a priority. And third, the family that you create, because I feel like an abundant mindset that there's more than enough of our capacity once we're healed or as we're healing to build connections with people who we're like-minded or have the same heart, same values, or even different values, but want to see positive change. And so I came back to Atlanta willing and ready to meet new people and grow my capacity to take on challenges and to take on all that's going on, with that season of preparation of knowing when to have a boundary and knowing when to avoid and when to restore and take a break.
I love that. I think for me, it's been a lot of similar things that you two have said. But one way that I've been sustaining hope is starting my day with prayer, but also in this conversation we've been having around identity a lot this season. I think it's been, examining the different hats that I wear in my identity, whether it's being like a sister or a daughter or a friend or a colleague, and which of these or video editor, whatever it might be, and which of these identities have I put above God, that I'm holding on to so tightly or so anxious over that it takes priority above God or takes more, and that puts me in a position of needing to trust in myself more than God, and then that's when I notice that anxiety takes over. So a lot of it has been kind of shifting,
Yeah, ship shape, I don't know.
shape shifting.
Yeah, that's the word I was trying to say.
Hair bending and
Metamorphosis.
Yeah, it's been shifting that. There was something I was gonna say, but it left me after the shift.
Well, we don't want to miss that, so let's definitely circle back to that. And one of the things we were talking about before as they were setting up, I was just primping. But anyway, and getting myself together, right? Was that this idea of being a giver or being a taker and wanting to be a balanced giver, and that a lot of the issues is in that we can see is a simple classification. We got a lot of takers in this world. And I think that one of our healing points that we all have in common is that, and we started the first season talking about, is that we were raised to be givers to the point of exhaustion, to the point of invisibility, to the point of no appreciation, to the point of not honoring our own needs. And I feel like 4 seasons later, we've learned a lot about that. And I think we would all say that we're givers, but now it's with boundaries, it's with understanding the value that we bring, it's with not centering others above God. And to me, even when I feel like sometimes I'm extending my hand way further than the other person, I feel like God fills in that gap now. I don't look as much to other people to be reciprocal. I look for, okay, if I give 1,000% and somebody else gives 90%, then I know that God has given 10,000%. And that doesn't mean that I stay in situations where it's not reciprocal, but some situations you can't get out of, maybe because family you're born in or because of choices you've made or the job that you have. And so that's helped me too, to distance and detach expectation from people, and to say, at the end of the day, God fills my cup. And when God fills your cup runneth over. And truly believing that, and saying, I am content with the decree of God, being very grateful, believing in there's more than enough for all of us. And it's a blatant lie that we need to be out here warring over the little breadcrumbs that the system and the powers that be give us, So I'm very hopeful and I'm very faithful that the work that we're doing here together, the work that we do separately, the fact that God connected us and continues to connect us, that we're making a difference and, we'll continue to make a difference. And on that note, do you remember what you were going to say?
I was going to say, I think that's a great note to end on.
Okay.
That's it for today. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. To learn more about today's guests and find related links and resources, visit the episode page at nexusexperience.com. You'll also find our full podcast archive. If you'd like to support the podcast, please subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review letting us know. Sharing the show with your friends is also incredibly helpful. You can find us at Inside Coffee Break on socials. For updates, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter on Substack. Today's show was edited by our co-host Grace Chung. We appreciate your love and support. See you in the next episode.